We're live.
Yes. Exciting. Yes. Look who we have here.
All right.
The illustrious Dr. Paul.
All right. For once, Jeremy and I are live in person in the same room.
Yes. This happened before we got into show business. Before I got into show business.
Right.
We didn't do that.
And we have people tuning in already. And we're thinking of a title. It's kind of unusual for us to be able to be in the same room at the same time, same studio, so to speak. But I thought the idea of origin stories, like, where do you come from and how has that made you who you are today? And is that what you want to remain as? And what are your plans for the future and things like this?
Brilliant. I love that.
So there's all kinds of psychology in that. Developmental psychology, Ericksonian material is in there.
Yes.
Are you hitting your developmental milestones, so to speak?
Yes.
Things like
absolutely.
that. And the storytelling aspect from a Jungian perspective. So what got you into the field, Jeremy?
Great question.
And man. EMDR. Why EMDR and why psychotherapy?
Great question. So what got me into the field was an early love in teenage years of art and science. So I really enjoyed the art of the written word, so to speak. I enjoyed case studies and literature. I had a humanities class where I read excerpts from works like Cyrano de Bergerac. I read some of Dante's Inferno. And there's also Paradiso and Purgatorio. And the great themes of literature, of human development, of suffering, of finding lessons in the hero's journey, what people take of that. Psychology of heroes and villains, love that. So I also discovered the world of science. I enjoyed chemistry. I enjoyed biology more. I thought biology was really fun. I enjoyed sketching nature and cross sections of animals. I didn't really enjoy dissecting as much, but enjoyed learning about circulatory systems and the intricacies of the animal kingdom. And so discovering an intro psychology book and delving into it and into Freud's work, it's such a fusion and integration of art and science. And Freud's early methodology of case studies of analysis, analyzing people's stories and reading them as books was so revolutionary that this field of psychology and psychotherapy seemed like this marriage of two different worlds where I wouldn't have to choose just one. So that's what got me into loving psychology, was that I hadn't honed it yet, what I wanted to specialize in, obviously.
Right.
But the fact that you could interact, the social aspect, the art aspect, the science aspect, there's something in all three of those really in this field.
I like it. Similar.
Yeah,
actually, just leading up to where you got to there, a lot of similarity. Starting out in school, I didn't like history. It was the only thing I really detested. Didn't like it at all. Today, I like it a lot. I mean, I might like it more than other things, other fields today. But same deal. I was good at a lot of subjects. I liked reading. I loved stories and storytelling. I always wanted to be a writer. But I had a friend in middle school whose dad was a doctor, and I was like, wow, that I came from pretty abject poverty, and they had a wonderful house, and I was like, wow, it might be nice to be a doctor if that's how you live. But as I got into high school science courses, I found I really dug them. And I liked chemistry more than biology, and I liked physics a lot and mathematics. And it all kind of led, in my undergrad years to become a chem major. And that pretty much lent itself to applying to medical school. And then once I got in, it was all heavily science and not as much the humanities, I would say. And I started to miss that aspect. So by the time you get to internship, I think I'm good. By the time you get to internship, you start deciding what you want to be when you finally grow up.
Yes.
And I was going to go into surgery. I was going to be a surgeon. And I did that for about a year and decided I don't like getting up at 4 a.m. to get into work, and 7 days a week for up to 10 years of training before you get your first job. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And I miss writing, and I miss the humanities and all this. So I temporarily switched to anesthesiology, and that wasn't much better. You get up even earlier in the morning. I should have known that. You have to set up for the surgeons. It's an even worse lifestyle. So finally, I just bail on the whole thing and moved to Colorado. I wanted to ski, and I thought, what would be the easiest field to get into to get the geography I wanted. And it turned out it kind of aligned with bringing back more humanities, into my life as a physician by going into psychiatry. And it also lends itself to writing and authorship and all that's involved there with the arts.
Yes.
Analyzing art as well. And it turned out that would be the perfect route to end up taking. So it was kind of a circuitous route for me. Yeah.
Why Colorado? I'd love to hear that. And skiing. What sparked that?
I mean, I was in Pittsburgh, my whole life up to that point. And there was a program based at my university there that previously was based at University of Colorado. And it's called Semester at Sea. It still exists to this day, as far as I know.
Amazing.
And it's where undergrads sail around the world, visiting, 12 to 14 countries, and sometimes staying with families, really diving into each culture, learning about religion, politics, economics, language before you arrive. You're studying with professors that are experts on these countries before you arrive.
That's awesome.
Well, actually, one of my professors was John Hazard. He was an attorney at the Nuremberg trials.
Oh, just a small thing.
Pretty
there.
Crazy,
That's huge.
And another one, the anthro professor, was at the time she called herself Kathleen Reichs.
Okay.
But today she's called Kathy Reichs.
Okay.
And she wrote the Bones series, the television series, and the books.
Yes, we know that.
She was an amazing teacher.
Wow.
So she got me to go into the jungle in Malaysia and study Aboriginals named the Samai.
Okay.
And how they use shamanic medicine mixed with Western medicine, because there are very few Western doctors, but they do have access to them.
Yes.
So she kind of coached me at this whole. You do field projects for all your courses, like in the interior of the countries that you go to.
That's exciting.
So anyway, why Colorado? That program was based here, so a lot of the students that I befriended were from CU, and so they invited me to come out and ski and see their territory, and I did, and I have had lifelong friends from that.
Amazing.
In fact, one has lived in Paris ever since that program, and I went and saw him last year for the first time in 25 plus years.
That's exciting.
So
I love this.
Yeah, expands your mind to travel.
Yeah, I think travel is such an important practice. I mean, if people can't get out of the country or even get out of their state, and learning other cultures and ways of life is such an integral thing to broaden and see your own biases. Like a fish doesn't know it lives in water till it's out of the water. So move that a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm leaving.
Certainly.
I'm leaving. Sorry, show's up.
We are live. We are.
We absolutely are. This is fun. We're doing it live. Live TV. All right, that's amazing. So you answer a little bit about psychiatry and why that field. I guess you could keep going from there, but I'm also curious, like some things that you learned you didn't expect to, or something about the field that really struck you, that surprised you. Anything in that nature. You can take it where you want. So choose your own adventure.
Wow, it's very open. What surprised me about the field? What surprised me about the field I would say compared to other medical fields, and certainly compared to other sciences, is that it can change so dramatically, so quickly in terms of what are its foundational principles in the eyes of the practitioners. In other words, I think I actually rebel a bit against this. It's, or a lot, perhaps, depending what you think. I think it's highly.
Trying to see if they can hear us. I'm gonna
Sure.
excuse myself to check.
Yes.
Somebody said can't hear you. Corel said can't hear you.
Uh-oh. Really?
Tell us if you can hear us now.
How about now?
So, yeah, because I don't know how long ago that was. We've got 10 viewers. At the very least, we're getting it on. Yeah, 10 viewers on yours. Okay. That's what I was concerned about. Just that we can't get the feedback, which is fine.
Yeah.
Can you hear us? I can hear now. Okay. On mine, they can hear. So that's fine. I mean, we're getting this. Corel, can you hear? I'm going to ask Corel.
Yeah.
We've got one person who can hear us. Corel can. Okay. Actually, we got.
Or can anyone hear us? Maybe it's
the
just
other
connection.
person left. Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is what live TV looks like. It just happens this way. So, can you hear us? There we go. Thank you. Thank you. I was like, why does it look like Paul when I did? Because it's your phone. That's why. Because I sent it on your phone. Again, live TV. So, all right. Again, this is getting recorded on 3 different monitors. So we've got this.
So we're gonna get some feedback, I suppose.
We're gonna get feedback. Can you hear me? It's on your phone. Everyone, listen. We're gonna answer your questions. We're gonna see what you want. Actually, let's see. I can see live on my end what's going on potentially. And here we go. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna have the live chat on here. Oh, it's still sending to people where we're sideways, but I mean that's fine if they want to view that. All right. All right. That's what. And you know what? We'll do it in post. So I mean, we're gonna.
Yeah.
This is all getting. We'll cut all that wide swath out. Okay.
Hopefully there's sound. Oh yeah, very easy.
Yeah. Sideways. Yeah, the picture sideways. I mean, that is what it is. We're gonna have. That's the thing.
They're saying the picture is sideways.
Yes. Well, it is. I've got us on here now. That's what it looks like to the audience.
Really?
Yes. I mean, the thing is, we can put that on. We can put it on other sites, and it'll look right side up. So there's a 3-second delay there.
How about we just twist the phones?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get kind of twisted, you know.
Midstream.
Twisted therapist. I don't. Twisted therapy is fine with me.
It's gonna be an odd view.
I mean, yeah, I'll just hug up close. You know, hi. I'm on TV. It's one of Dr. P's viewers. Please send us okay. So Geraldine is on my stream and can hear us. Raymond can hear us. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so that's great.
Yeah.
So we can
actually read it.
Right. So let us know on Paul's stream, and don't go over there. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Twisted. I thought it was just me. Well, you know, everybody's got an origin. We're kind of going over that.
Yeah.
The origins of where we come from, all of this stuff. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, look, it is what it is. So
it's all right.
15-second delay. Let's go. Yeah. That's fine. All right. You know, Ask Doctor and the Fox. We've got a psychiatrist and we've got a therapist here, and we're doing a talk show. So if you like this and you support us and you shop this around the news stations, and we'll be able to do this more often, and we'll heal the world. And we'll talk about therapies that work, and we'll talk about the ones that don't work, and how to avoid being, I would say, exploited by the coaching, toxic positivity industrial complex. So, all right, looks great. Thank you, Jan. Thank you for that. We've got, oh, I said William Shakespeare on here, but it's not. All right, so look, let's go.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's fine. We have the gift of gab, the gift of writing. Okay, so back to.
So we've been talking about origin stories,
yes,
right?
We are.
And you told us how you grew up loving both science and the arts. The same for me. Mine is history. Didn't like history. Today I love it. I talked about how I was a surgery trainee. Then I quit that to become an anesthesiology trainee. Didn't like that either. I mean, aspects I like, technical aspects. It was technically challenging, puzzle solving. Actually, it was more like flying an airplane. Takeoff, landing, in between, it's, less stressful.
They're asleep.
Yeah, while they're asleep.
Talkative crowd.
But it was still like a very rough lifestyle that I was looking at.
Yeah.
And no, arts and humanities involved. So
not much.
So I had to like step back and think, I think I need to relocate. And I talked to my friends that I met on semester at sea who were from Colorado, our friends to this day. And, convinced myself this was the place to come to train for psychiatry. And that's what I did.
Amazing.
So I think we're back up to speed here. With a new vertical portrait view. Strange news format.
Yeah. I mean,
hopefully they will give us landscape ability someday.
Hey, so in the chat, let me know if you can hear both of us, because that's going to be really important. Because if it's just me, then when Doctor is talking, we're going to be getting I'm going to be like, so, I was going to make a joke that you went from a field where your patients don't talk ever to a field where, boy, do they.
Right.
And how.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Sometimes it's a lot of stuff that might not be that helpful, inner dialogues and whatnot. So it's very funny to me. You went from a sleeping clients into very talkative ones who would like a talking cure in medicine.
Well, my way of always tongue-in-cheek explaining it to people when they say, why did you switch through those three fields? And I say, well, I did surgery and it's like 80% abdomen. And so I didn't like dealing with that much poop. And then I went to anesthesia and there's a lot of vomiting, and I decided I didn't like vomiting either. So now I don't have to deal with either.
No,
I just deal with both verbally.
The
verbal version.
So. Good job. I was going to say, you got the version of, absolutely. You got pressured speech and word vomit. That's, okay. Very interesting.
But no joke, when I first meet patients, I have all these little mini speeches that I give every one of them to try to summarize what is psychiatry, how does it work, and kind of get us on the same page. And one of the things I tell them is psychiatry is different from every other field of medicine. Most of the other fields, there's some kind of lab studies you can do, or scans of the brain MRI.
Yeah.
There's x-rays, scans, blood tests. And then what you get out of those tests, it tells you the diagnosis right there.
Yeah.
The diagnosis is in the results of the test, right?
Bingo.
In psychiatry, there's no test of that sort that you can give people.
Right.
That will diagnose them literally on the spot with some kind of testing results.
Yes.
So as a result, it's, I tell them it's all based in words. It's linguistic.
Yes.
Freud called psychology, called his invention of psychoanalysis the talking cure.
Right.
And the dominant school of philosophy around his time were the linguists. And the linguists believed that the mind is structured like a language. The mind is structured and designed to digest stories and to tell stories and to operate on stories. And I just love that idea always, because, that brought me back to the humanities and storytelling and writing and its connections to psychiatry and psychology, and to still be able to be a medical doctor, but to be able to deal in stories. It's kind of a special scenario. So when patients say, okay, well, then how do you diagnose me then? Just through words. And I say, well, that's why they call it the DSM manual of diagnosing, right? It's statistical S's in the middle for statistics.
Yes.
Words are imperfect. Words can be interpreted all kinds of ways. I'm not sure exactly what you meant. Can you clarify? And we go back and forth in this volley, interpreting their words.
Yes.
Until we get down to some sort of similarity to diagnostic categories that are met, like filling in the pieces of a puzzle in your head.
Yes.
As you go along to diagnose people.
Yeah, love that. I think you when you start in this field, you definitely start to develop your own speaks to clients. I think that's one of the big hallmarks is how do you introduce the science of psychiatry or psychotherapy to your patients? I know you've done both, and that's actually little segment within a segment here. Psychiatrists now in our current landscape really don't offer psychotherapy often, do they?
No.
And that's something a lot of patients understand. People will think I'm a doctor until I tell them, like, I can't give you medication. Like, well, I thought psychiatrists were the ones who do therapy. It's like, well, things have kind of shifted a little bit. It's usually psychologists or licensed professional counselors or social workers or whatever who do that stuff, who do the talking cure. I think what got me into psychotherapy versus just doing research in the psychology world is I did some research in college, and some of it was very fascinating. And I've done a single person dissertation on EMDR therapy, and I can get into more on that later on how EMDR therapy helps to actualize the feelings of being trapped and of being interrupted in trauma. So I love that stuff, but ultimately I also love to work with people and be social. And so helping people to do applied problem solving, to delve into what's bothering them, and to, as Dr. Paul was saying, niche it down, right? Analyze it into a category. You can imagine from Price is Right, the Plinko puck going down, and us trying to find out, well, which of the bottom rungs, which of the bottom slots does this go into? Is it more anxious symptomologies and more depressive? Is it OCD once we figured out anxiety, or is it generalized anxiety? Like, what is this, and how do we help to offer our care? Me in terms of desensitization and talking cure methodology, and Dr. Paul in terms of medication. So for me, determining I don't want to just do lab work. I'd like to do patient work. I would like to do the philosophical work of meeting and joining with a client and forming that therapeutic alliance to do an N of one, right? Meaning a sample size of one, each client being a new story. So going back to story and art. Yes. Can't hear Fox. Okay. So they can't hear me and yours, and that's fine. Oh, because I've got maybe the earpods thing. I don't know. They can hear us on mine. Interesting. I mean,
can't hear Fox.
Yeah. I mean, they can hear us both. I've asked people. Yeah, that is kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Right. That's weird. I wouldn't have thought I would be the one that couldn't hear. How is it? Oh, I know why. Do you know why?
Yeah, because each of our earbuds are keyed to our phone only.
Yeah, exactly.
It almost has to be ambient sound.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Boy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can do the editing. We can do the audio in post. We can enhance it.
Let's see here. Let's do this.
I'm going to play pool.
There we go. Corel.
Should call in some.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Who?
How about now?
What's up, everybody?
Put away my earbud.
What about two tall professionals? What are we talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the old TTP. Two tall professionals.
I tell you, it's another name. We're always coming up with some names here. So, all right, we're back. Thank you. I can hear. I had to step away for a moment. We had to go to our separate corners. Hey, man. Look, I've told that's them letting us know they can hear versus not.
Yeah.
Volume's very low. Boo. Okay, we got 12 people. Okay, Geraldine's on mine. Volume very low. Well, you know, that's put it in your head. Put it right up on your head. You know, I'm sorry about it. It's not fun. Much better. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm loud.
All right. Great.
Okay. Great. Two professionals making it together. Here we go. Okay. So
two professional speakers without a producer. That's what you get.
Well, send us one. Yes. This is our demo. Yeah. You know. Okay. Go back to. So there. I'll toss it back to you. I'll say. For me, being pulled into the art of the case study and the art of psychotherapy with an individual patient is what really pulled me into the niching down into something of like, you know what, I can learn evidence-based care, and each client's different. It's going to be fun to explore and embark on this journey of healing with them. And for my personality, I think that fit very well. I also had great mentorship. So to get more personal, I had some pretty awesome mentors. I went to a private Christian school for a while, and I had this really fun avant-garde theology professor who was, I think he was probably late 20s, early 30s at the time. Very funny, would put on comedy as kind of a bumper music thing. He would put on music like All American Rejects, like as class was coming in, like a few minutes before class, as kind of a way for us to filter in. Be fun to do that for clients, but I think they feel a little awkward walking into their own music. Or maybe they feel like a pro wrestler. I mean, everybody could feel like a superstar sometimes, I think. So I enjoyed the mentorship, had some really good male role models in college. I think that's important for people to know. If you have sons, if you are male, connecting with people who you could see yourself being like. So the scholar practitioner model, I loved scholarly, intelligent people and always enjoyed putting thoughts into words and writing essays. And again, so I knew I wanted to do something more of the loquacious, verbose variety, right? So that's really the direction I wanted to go. And the question is just, where do you channel that in the psychology realm? And so I decided more psychotherapy, and then I could do research as needed and as I can get involved with. So college was interesting. Yes, strong mentors rock. Thank you, Jan. And I went on and I went to state school as well with very good reputation in Colorado. And I went back to that Christian University for my master's. So I could go all over the place with that, but I think I should toss it back to you for where you want to go on your origins or stuff we haven't touched on yet. I know there's a certain mentor you have who has a very fascinating framework for narcissism that was crucial to your development.
Yeah, actually, I had to go back and I was reminded of him when I was, going through the chaotic process of drastically switching specialties and drastically changing geography. It was that I was in the thick of anesthesiology training, and I was thinking back to, okay, what could I do and within medicine that still has a lot of the humanities in it or integrates with it? Well, that would have to be psychiatry. And then I remembered back to my first psychiatry professor as a medical student, and his name, he's deceased now, unfortunately, but his name was Horatio Fabrega. And he was the very first rotation that I did. I was there with a lot of future surgeons who kind of poo-pooed the whole field. They spent their entire rotation kind of jokingly reading Bret Easton Ellis's novel American Psycho.
Wow.
And they thought they were all funny to do that, and just it didn't matter to them. But I kind of took an interest when I talked to this professor a little bit about his origin story. Speaking of origin stories, and he said that he started out with keen interest in anthropology, and he viewed himself as an anthropologic psychiatrist. And I was like, an anthropologic psychiatrist? What in the world is that? I've never heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, frankly, I'm kind of a vampire hunter. And then that really captured my interest because that sounded very cool.
It's very exotic.
In a lot of ways.
Very
exotic
sexy.
and cool.
Yeah.
But it turns out his academic research was into cultural effects in terms of people accessing healthcare. But the specific little nugget he was giving me was by studying vampires in some of his meanderings, it is representative of all the principles of narcissism. And a way to convey it to the entire culture, whatever culture you may be in, is through monster stories. So vampires, zombies, werewolves, any kind of monster story where you learn the workings of the strategies of the monster and how could you defeat the monster, how could you escape the monster, what are all the techniques involved. They're universals among narcissistic behavior, which is the same as juvenile or immature behavior, or in another realm, you could say it's bad behavior, unvirtuous behavior, or even evil behavior. So I thought that was fascinating because it was a perfect way that he illustrated for me whatever I ended up studying, whether it was narcissism, monsters, and werewolves and vampires, or some other aspect of psychology. It really vividly demonstrated the direct potential connection between science principles and literature and the humanities.
Yes.
That art and literature could teach psychology to an entire populace through symbolism.
Yes.
And what was super cool that he said was, you will not find a culture in all the earth throughout all human history that didn't have monsters, that didn't have monster stories. 100% of them have monster stories of some kind.
Well, it's very interesting because you get to genetics and memetics, right? Like Richard Dawkins has written about memes as these ideas that just propagate. And so the idea of like a monster entity, something that is inhuman, and we could say, well, it can mean something that's suboptimal, that is not human in the way of ideal interpersonal reciprocity or relations. So it could mean that. It doesn't have to mean inhuman like a literal demon. It can mean a demonic sort of exploitativeness or reveling in others' misery, sadism. And so I think on a mimetic level, monsters make a lot of sense. They're a packaged capsule, like with medication, you put it in a capsule, you put it in a delivery system. And truth goes into story as a delivery system quite well. And I know many authors have written about story, writing about writing, right? So it's interesting to hear you bring that up. I mean, that's become such like Iron John and other works about mythopoetic masculinity. It's really on the rise, this sort of rediscovery of story, like modernism is like this response to postmodernism. So metamodernism is basically, okay, so if truths are subjective, you just need to choose one, you need to roll with it. You need to act like the truth that you choose is objective. And as a Christian, I would say, well, I already believe objective truth. But for people who don't, I think getting lost in the mire of postmodernism, you have to swing back around over the swing set till you break on through the other side, if you will, and choose a story. I think people become so inert and stagnated because they don't look at story, look at like, what do I not want to be in the monster story realm? I mean, you and I have been collaborating on movie reviews and story reviews because of our joint love of that. My favorite episode I think we've done together, I was thinking about it when you were on your way over here, was probably the Star Wars one because we went so deep with themes. But anyway, I love that. Story as truth, story as explanation for what to avoid. You know, children are going to understand monsters. Maybe they won't understand, fearing men, like fearing a monster more than man. So utterly fascinating.
Well, I got one for you. As you were talking, I was thinking about, well, stories can't be fact. Not if they are like a folklore, right?
Right.
Stories
Precisely.
can't be fact. Well, even your autobiography can't literally be fact. It's your recollection of it.
I
So
like that.
so words are imperfect. But then again, I've heard it said that art is truth, that art conveys truth. So how can both exist simultaneously? Stories can't be perfect facts, which is how we argue about everything from politics to religion to even how to deliver psychotherapy, I would imagine, depending on your, orientation and where you were trained and how you were trained and what decade you were trained in. But if stories can't literally be facts, but art can convey truth, how do you reconcile that? I think it's kind of what we do.
I agree. I mean, when you look at, so evolutionary psychology and Christianity and faiths can work very well together as bedfellows. I mean, if you look at sin and you look at that which is ugly, it's exploitativeness for your own ends, your own reproduction or survival at the cost of everything else around you, right? If you look at art, you can see that which is beautiful is that which is cultivated, that which is healthy. So you look at nursery rhyme, you look at fairy tales and see the beginnings, like you see a hero who doesn't listen to their parents having to go on a journey. You look at Hansel and Gretel, you look at other tales, look at Beauty and the Beast and understanding someone who becomes very isolated, and you could say that it's someone who has agoraphobia. The Beast has agoraphobia. So the instantiations of truth are stories, like someone's individual story. If they, and AA, that's why AA and group therapy is so powerful, especially for men, because you're sharing your story with other witnesses. You're sharing how addiction didn't work for you, what it took away from you, how you overcame it, what tools you had, right? What your shield, your sword, how you overcame it, and how you're living now, like a past, present, and a future. Everybody has a past. You have to struggle in your present to build a better future. So I think getting in the weeds of the objective truth of it, it's like, well, you could objectively say everything you're doing in your life and not pull it together in a way that energizes you. And so you can be smart, but not wise. You can understand all the pieces in your life, but you have to put them together into a watch that keeps time. I mean, wisdom is really knowing how to make sense of your story and others, I think, is kind of a good working redneck therapy definition of it. I mean, because you can be smart and have a bunch of facts, but don't know how to integrate them. You can have the Tetris blocks, but don't know how to put them all together. So when you look at the rise of evolutionary psychology, rise of understanding people's behavior, of, why women and men like certain things, and mystique, and being in the moment, like being present, focused, it has gone out of the window so much. I know for me, I can relate, and I can also say we've got to get back to it. So how you make sense of story being truth is what propels you forward. Like, I loved narrative therapy in grad school. So I love the idea of externalizing your problem, looking at exceptions to your problem, getting outside your story and structuring it as a story that goes the way you want. And now I pivoted to more trauma-focused EMDR therapy, but that's still very story-focused on what are the traumatic incidents you want to clear the negative emotion from, and how do you move forward. There's something in EMDR therapy called a future template. That's exciting. You're looking at building your own future. And so without story of saying what we were, who we are now, what we want to be, there's no capsule for truth delivery. We've just got these ideas hanging out over here as chemicals that we haven't formulated into a pill yet.
Wow. It also occurs if the subject that we're dealing with tonight is origin stories. I was thinking about how much you like villains and monster stories and things like this.
Horror, I would say.
So
yeah, okay, scary.
And then I was thinking about superheroes and Spider-Man and Batman and things like that. You always think of an origin story as being the origin of the superhero. He was bit by a radioactive spider and this sort of thing. But an origin story isn't a hero story necessarily.
Oh no.
Because villains have origin stories and heroes have origin stories. So it's kind of like your starting point that establishes how far you have to go
Yeah.
to become a hero
Mm-hmm.
or to descend into being a villain.
Right.
And what are the stakes? You probably establish the stakes. You probably establish the groundwork of what will your special traits or powers be, your heroic potential elements you could grow.
Yes.
As you evolve as a person.
Yes.
So I thought it worth noting that an origin story isn't the entire story. It's just like the place setting, the theme, your basic skills, and how far you have to go, and what are the stakes. Yeah,
I love that. I mean, and so then again, you can look at what is truth and say, okay, so the truth is Anakin Skywalker lost his mother because he was the only one that could be saved by Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, okay, off of his impoverished station in life, whisked away off planet to go train as a Jedi, okay. And then he comes back, his mother, tragically passes. So that's objective truth. If he had taken the lighter path, it could be, well, how do I as a Jedi make sure this doesn't happen? Okay. So he could have gone that direction. But as a Sith, he says, okay, how do I control destiny and life and death? And he became hyper vigilant and willing to do anything to prevent loss, versus saying, how do I set up virtuous society and be basically the intergalactic righteous knight that the Jedi are? He overreached. And so his narrative became life preservation of my own attachments at all cost. And so he took objective facts and he made it into a story that said, I'm going to get the ultimate power over life and death and listen to a Sith. So it's very interesting, the idea of story. You're right. Origins aren't always, but they're morality neutral. Mm-hmm. And the villain never thinks they're the villain, but they have a skewed sense of morality and they're willing to make concessions that people who are, quote, heroes, that makes me sound like a villain to say it that way. The heroes are going to have blocks in place and have certain characterological decisions of, okay, I'm not going to go this far to impede on someone else, and I'm not going to take revenge or retribution, like ancient technologies of boundaries, of staying away from doing certain things, having like Batman's no kill rule. That's a huge thing in comics. Like the Joker keeps getting free. People get angry at how
what is Batman's no kill rule?
He won't kill. That's the rule. That's a clip. There's a clip right there. Know that. Batman doesn't kill. No, in the games, he has like a rubber bullet gun that he will shoot villains with. He ties them up with a lanyard. A lanyard makes it sound like one of those badges. Ties them up with a lariat. He won't kill. And so a huge crux of the struggle is the Joker will do anything. He will kill indiscriminately, basically. Batman won't. And people are angry at Batman because he could end it. But there's something about that hard rule that he won't break. I think Superman's much the same. So that's why people hated the version where Superman killed Zod, Man of Steel, whatever. People can say what they want. It was a good movie. But yeah, Batman, most heroes have a no-kill rule. And then you have like the Punisher and you have anti-heroes, which are ones who say, well, I have a moral code, but there's certain things I'm going to do that a hero won't dirty their hands with because they just can't understand. Again, it's justification. It's what is the orbit? What is your morality galaxy? Which planets have the most gravitational pull? How do you organize your morality? What's most important? So Genesis could be a creation story. Absolutely. You have the creation of mankind, what our roles are, who we are in the scheme of the universe, stewards of the earth. We aren't our own gods, right?
She means an origin story. Genesis could be an origin story, is what she means.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, absolutely it is. Origin, creation. I mean, it's literal creation, and it is origin. So very cool. Love that. Yeah, Batman won't kill. Do you like him more now?
I know.
I'm a Batman guy. Well, what do you know?
I don't think I like him more. So, maybe.
I mean, he's good, man.
Yeah.
Where is she? That's the Batman Begins. He has like the gruff voice changer.
Right.
He doesn't always sound like that. That's just that one. I don't know. You would have to rank worst Batman versus
So the
best.
heroes, though, superheroes or other kinds of heroes, then they are about truth, and in the case of superheroes, bringing evildoers to justice.
Yes, order.
As opposed to, being the arbiter of life and death.
Yes, they are the yes.
Yeah.
They're judge in a certain sense. You've committed crime, but they won't be the jury or executioner. It's very interesting. Yeah, and you could study like the Batman is a great case study because his origin was that he lost his parents, and so he struggled with fear. He struggled with fear of bats, and he owned that fear. He went through it. He desensitized it, essentially, carried it as his symbol, and something about death, he just won't bridge that. He doesn't ever want to bring an end to someone's life. And I think that relates to the fact that his parents were killed. And there's something about that act. He just says, I don't have to do that. I can go around that and bring justice without execution.
Right.
Which is valid.
Without being a vigilante.
Right. Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Well, is he still, I think he's still vigilante.
Is he a vigilante?
Yeah, he's still one because he even bothers to fight the villains and knock them out because you're not allowed to assault people. So the fact that he gets around it and fights and beats people, like we don't really think about this, but if you go out and you find someone stealing a wallet, you're not actually really supposed to beat them up. Fun fact. So you're supposed to call the police.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't do that. He beats them up, ties them up. So that's like kidnapping, and then calls the police. And so there's people who don't even like that. They say, well, and there's a lot of crooked cops in Gotham. And so like one of their big things is they're trying to get rid of Batman because he interferes with their mob cuts of money and all that. I love Batman. I could talk about the psychology of Batman all day, but we won't because we're talking about the psychology of origin stories, everyone. If you like this, please share with your friends, ask us questions.
So Geraldine says storytelling is a ritual procedure.
Yes, it is. Should we dive in on that?
Yeah.
Well, it's what people do around the fire. I mean, so think about memory before writing. So think about mnemonics. Think about story is something that embeds itself in your memory a lot easier than rote sort of disembodied facts. So we have to think about the limits of the human hardware as part of what's dictated our software. And so stories have a beginning, middle, and end. They have themes. They're easier to remember. And so before human writing came human verbalizing. And so stories became a ritual endeavor that people did to pass on truths. Again, the capsule is story, and it contains truth within it. And so certain themes like your culture will survive if people live and treat others the way they want to be treated, right? That is a certain truth that has carried forward through most societies, that there must be justice and punishment, like the Code of Hammurabi, right? From millennia ago, the idea that there have to be rules and certain regulations and commandments that we follow, or there's chaos and anarchy. And so stories that demonstrate that demonstrate people breaking taboos and norms and even the laws of decency and then meeting justice. Like that is a huge way of conveying truth in a ritualized way that teaches the next generation in a fun way. Stories are interesting. Human beings love suspense and resolution. Look at what we're doing now. Live streaming, creating videos with hooks, with interest points, with knowledge that can benefit you, leave you wanting more, that leave you wondering what's going to happen next. What am I going to learn? That's story embodied. The best clips are things that have a good beginning, middle, and end, that get you interested, that share something, and that leave you thinking about it in the ensuing hours. Like I could go on and on, but it's just a great way of delivering any kind of wisdom. And the worst way to speak is to have nothing in mind for your audience, nothing to relate to them with, that just you're info dumping on them. So those are my thoughts on it.
It's funny that you should say all that in response to Geraldine's comment about it being storytelling is a ritual procedure, because right as she was writing that, I was thinking about how I've always taught patients the concept of theory of mind or observing ego, or many people would call it just mindfulness
mentalization,
or
almost
mentalization, or being present minded. That's the most important learned human skill. We learn it. It can be learned from a therapist. It's the core of what every therapist teaches and what every therapy contains in its, its working operations. Every single therapy has to have observing ego training built into it, or it isn't a therapy.
Yes.
Because without it, the reason it's the most important learned human skill is without it, you cannot grow or change.
Right.
You can't grow or change without the ability to self-reflect, let's say, is another synonym for it.
True.
So if storytelling is what the mind runs on, if psychology is the talking cure or storytelling cure, then the reason story has always been a ritual procedure around campfires or around the dinner table or in church or with incense and with candles or with recognized holidays is because without the ritual, it can be hard to get everybody's attention within a family or a community or a nation focused on the here and now, the present moment, which is where you can access the skill.
Right.
I think that's why at least the most important stories that are told are done ritually.
Yeah. So story as a thing that says, here's your identity, here's where you're from, here's where you're going is very important. I mean, again, it goes to our shared love of masculinity, like helping, like positive masculinity, right? And we can get into that if you want, the origins of where we discovered that. For me, it was trying to find therapeutic modalities that resonated with the men that I'm working with and that I was working with. What connects with them across their demographics and the jobs they have and the certain masculine norms, like not sharing as much emotion or any right away with people, and what it looks like to achieve and not vilifying achievement. So anyway, story as cure, as justice of, okay, you may be going through something now, but look at the future. I mean, even with college students as clients, like if they have classes that they don't enjoy, what's it for? Like you're building something. I had classes I didn't enjoy that much. I won't name them in case any of the teachers ever watch this, but when you're looking at some grunt work or some busy work, what is it building toward? And can you bear it? Can you bear your cross for a little longer for the payout? And it becomes kind of that. And that's where, again, story comes in. And I think we're so robbed of that now because everything is just the next self-contained moment. Everything is short form. And we need a larger story, and we need values, and values can become a very dirty sounding, boomer-esque concept. But the truth is we have them whether we'll admit it or not. If you're depressed, you're struggling with knowing that you have value to move forward. So not having values is deadly, quite literally.
You make me think of story as meaning.
Absolutely.
Right. And so if you go all the way back to Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes.
And, the first time in the evolution of psychology that we started thinking about meaning as a psychological principle. And then if you look at some of the journalists, writers, psychology writers, social scientists like Jonathan Haidt today talking about the lack of meaning in today's, youngest generations,
right,
and older generations as well, frankly,
right,
the effects of digital media and so forth, that story is the answer.
Yes.
I wonder if you lack meaning in your life and you're depressive, dysthymic, you're not sure who you are. I wonder if story holds the answer. Makes me think of the usefulness of cinema therapy.
Yes.
for various things: depression, anxiety, the lovelorn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
people need exceptions. They need to shake themselves out of the story that they're in if they think that there's no way forward. I mean, I will say our brains are inference engines. And so Carl Friston's theory of active inference, so like the Bayesian inference model of we're always looking around, and when something defies the patterns that we see, we update our model. So we tend to, the downside of that is we can tend to want to predict everything and put it in a box. That's the basest way to put that. So when we're doing that with a depressive mindset, to say, well, this is always what happens, even if it is, we have to say, I have to develop we have to develop something new. I have to surprise myself, because surprise is the engine of memory. So when something like the Zeigarnik effect that I write so much about, when you're interrupted, when you're doing something, when you're surprised, okay, you are going to actively infer that that thing that surprised you is important. And so that's why with people with depression, we have to use behavioral activation therapy, whether that's EMDR as the vehicle for delivery, or whether that's going out and doing something new, going to walk in the park, going to a meetup group, doing something that shocks you out of predicting a dismal story. So the predictive processing model of cognition is very interesting. I geeked out over that for a long time writing my EMDR dissertation.
Wow.
And you're making me think of how that relates to story.
Well, you want to change your story if you're not happy. You want to change you want to hop stories to a different story, a different timeline, a different plot, and a different outcome if you're not successful, if you're not happy, if you're not loved, if you are not healthy.
Right. Yes.
You want to change stories. So back to observing ego, or self-reflection, or mindfulness, or mentalization. Think about this is a little speech I also give a lot of patients and students. When you go to a really well-loved movie, like universally well-loved, perhaps Oscar winning, perhaps not, but well-loved, what you're doing is you're seeing a main character evolve, or grow, which is basically psychotherapy. What you want to see out of psychotherapy is growth from their origin to their desired successful outcome. If it's a hero story, if it's not a tragedy, right?
Right.
If it's a tragedy, then that's just a warning to you what to not do.
Cautionary tale, literally.
Right. But if it's a hero story and it's a universally well-loved film, that means the main character is kind of all of us. Like, we could easily put ourselves in the shoes of whoever that main character is, whether they're male, female, whatever time period it was, Forrest Gump or Gladiator, it doesn't matter.
Gladiator's modern dating. Just kidding.
Okay.
Comedy. Saying you have to swing it out. You have to be a gladiator.
So
modern dating scene.
So when you meet your dates, do you say, "I am Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix legions"?
Only that's impressive. Only if it's a Halloween party or it's a Greek one.
Father of a murdered son, husband of a murdered wife. I will get my vengeance in this life or the next.
That's a good one to bring up at the.
I don't think that'd be good on a first date.
That's good at Casa Bonita, probably. I'm just kidding. They should sponsor us.
Maybe it's good when you're complaining to customer service.
Oh, but absolutely.
But my point was, in talking about the word character has dual meanings.
Yes.
In a novel, a great story, a great film, because character means the part the actor is playing. And if we're saying main character, This is where you get your main character syndrome, I think.
It is.
But character also means one's level of goodness or virtue.
Yes.
Or in our world, I would say maturity level or psychological developmental level.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see a truly great film, if it is universally well loved, then most of us could fit ourselves into the shoes of that main character. In other words, we are looking at ourself.
Yes.
Which is exactly what observing ego is.
Yes.
It's what self-reflection is.
Anything but that.
It's what mentalization is. It's stepping outside yourself, looking back at yourself, and assessing, how am I doing? How developed am I? Where am I in the plot of my life, my story?
That's why it's so important that people develop the capacity to own their own story, to view themselves and not rely upon others to interpret for them. So you make me think of how stories, obviously the Bible is ancient literature, obviously things like the Epic of Gilgamesh. But if you look at in the Middle Ages, the everyman stories that were basically, the protagonist was every man. It was like just a stand-in for mankind. If you look at, and so that was like early examples of movies. So you have what someone should be doing. It was didactic. It was a teaching sort of play format. But when you look at Shakespeare, you look at early his writings, it shook things up when he wrote about a villain who had a backstory, and we were supposed to understand his motivation. That was very fascinating. Because before it was like evil was portrayed as this thing that it just is its own force. It's just evil.
Yeah.
Right. But it really is the absence of good. And so stories that show sympathetic villains, I think it's very important. And this is such a thing that's even debated to this day of, does a sympathetic villain take away from the horror and the fear of evil? Like when Darth Vader got the backstory to be Anakin, people didn't like that because it took away from that masked entity. Same with Hannibal Lecter. So, but for our work, I think we really do have to understand the origin stories of villains and see where those departure points are to help people avoid becoming embittered. Maybe they won't be the next Darth Vader, but they could certainly be the next disgruntled person who lives in their own self-inflicted hell.
Is there an asymmetry, I wonder? I never thought of this before, you saying that. Is there an asymmetry between villains and heroes in that, to use Star Wars as an example, when Darth Vader was just Darth Vader, just the ultimate evil, and you didn't know of the origin story of Anakin, him in his youth, I think I like Darth Vader better not knowing Anakin's origin story, because you could project onto that villain your particular villains in your life that you have had in your life. Whereas if they dictate, this is how Anakin grew up, this is his sister, and this is his, he had a sister, right?
No, he had a mother.
No, he had a mother. Yes. But then Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia are brother and sister, his children.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you get my point that prior to there being an origin story for villains, you could project your own.
You could. 100%.
Particulars on it.
Yeah, and they could be the boogeyman. And it goes right back to like stories containing larger truths, like avoid the monster in the dark. I mean, I think it's interesting because you will face different villains. Like Anakin, his tragedy, and it's so well written, is that he cared so much that he was willing to forsake virtue. So he was so worried about these nightmares he was having about losing Padme, his wife, that he was willing to do anything to stop that from possibly happening. Now, what's interesting is those weren't premonitions. He was being like psychically hit by Darth Sidious. And if he'd quieted his mind and been able to possibly consult with his Jedi council and reveal like, okay, I messed up, I have a wife, whatever. But his secrecy and his caring together were his tragic downfalls. So if you look at that and say, okay, if I care a lot about something, I'm going to have to be aware I'm going to be biased. And also, if I have a lot of shame about making a decision that I regret, like as a Jedi, you're not supposed to fall in love. So he hid that. Like, that's a vulnerability. Secrets are vulnerability. So he had a secret and he had a lot of fear. So secrets plus fear equal Darth Vader. It's not that quick a route. But if you look at that, you can learn from great villain stories. And you can say, if they're just the boogeyman, then you learn basically the same thing you do about like bears or alligators. Just avoid them, right? But if you learn how they're built, you can say, okay, this is their predisposition for that kind of villain. You can also learn the kind of people that you're going to encounter. We all have met difficult people. We should do a series on that. Difficult people in the movies too, difficult characters. And every one of them has a different sort of hot button. Like Anakin was very hot-blooded as a villain. He had anxious attachment that turned into deep darkness, that turned into malevolence and hatred. Other villains are more lawful evil. Like they're evil. Like you look at Darth Sidious, like he has a different story. Like he enjoys control and order, dark order. And there are people who have that more bureaucratic sort of evil where it's primarily sadism versus lashing out and like Anakin's reactive evil. So, which gets into psychopathology and, genetics and not genetics, neuroscience and like different people's different centers of morality. Anyway, could go on and on about this, but yeah, learning how to avoid villains is a huge part of all of our lives, and how not to take it personally when the villain takes a swing at you.
Well, okay, so I was asking you whether you think that there is an asymmetry.
Oh, yes.
In that,
okay,
villains, and I want to get back to villain stories.
Please go back.
But in a villain story, if the villain is not expounded upon, elaborated upon in origin, that allows the audience to have way more of a personalized pulling of lessons from the villain's presence in the story, I think, and buys in more into the story and takes more into their lives to then go use symbolically by the villain being very generic,
vague, and nondescript.
You don't know the backstory.
Yes.
But with heroes, is it also true of heroes? No, I don't think so. We want to know in great detail what the origin is of a hero that we have, because the more we can learn, the more we can find alignments that are within our own personal lives that overlay onto that hero. So I almost wonder if there's a asymmetry between the two, a villain and a hero. Within a story.
I agree with you. I see what you're saying. You don't really need to know the villain. That's who to avoid. You want to know who the hero is so you can emulate them.
Yes.
I agree. I think you also need, but see, we have to confront our own darkness, and we need to know what makes a villain. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to love it. It doesn't mean you have to go try to become one, but you have to know what are the two paths you can take when faced with ambiguity. Do you become overly controlling and domineering and think that you're better than everyone else? Or do you say, I'm going to build up my competency and do what I can? So again, there's different ways of looking at it and different routes to go, because heroism and villainy are all along the kind of inflection points. It's like in a video game, you have a choice, you have checkpoints along the way. But no, I think there is an asymmetry, absolutely. Like, and people, it was really interesting because this video game series Halo, the Master Chief character was the Spartan. So it's like, well, not that's named after the ancient Spartans, but not after the ancient Greek class there, city-state Spartans.
Sparta,
exactly. But so named after those warriors of Sparta, those famed warriors. But he had a helmet, he wouldn't take it off, and he didn't take it off in the whole game series. Then when people there was a series made where he took it off, and there was a lot of uproar because he's supposed to be you as the player character. You're supposed to be able to project on him. So in video games, there's a lot of looking at, like, is it good to have a self-insert where you could project anything onto it? Like, you got a helmet, so you don't know what the person looks like. It's you. So with some
the main character is you.
Yeah.
One thing that also I was wondering about, what was it? The self-reflection aspect, I think it was, in the following of the main character, the hero, through a hero story, contraposed against a villain that we need to know a little bit about, but not too much. Oh, I know what it was. The biologist's definition of life, the most simplified definition, because originally Freud said, this is the talking cure, and that the linguists viewed the mind as structured like a language, and that your life is a story, and you are the main character in your life story,
hopefully,
and you are growing, hopefully, as you go through life. I was thinking in my mind of, okay, what if you saw a film of a man who wakes up every morning for 80 years and goes and sits on a park bench all day, then gets up and returns home and goes to sleep, and it repeats, and that's the movie. Not very exciting.
No,
right?
No.
And what if there was another movie of a different man, maybe in a different time period of history, or a different geography, and the movie was the man wakes up in the morning, he goes and sits on a bench all day, he gets up at the end of that, goes home, returns to bed, and it repeats.
Yes.
Well, what's the difference between these two stories? Almost nothing. What's missing are decisions.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So a biologist's definition of life is irritable. That's the most simplified definition.
I like that.
Life is irritable.
It sure is.
So if life is irritable, that implies, or literally means, the environment does stuff to it.
Yes.
And if it's alive, it will do stuff back.
Yes.
In response to the environment. Whereas a rock won't respond back.
Oh, no. Yeah, I love that. That's great. Yeah, that's a great definition.
So that has to get factored into this idea of stories and movies as explanatory of psychology.
Yes.
In terms of there being origins for both villains and heroes, but what eventually makes a villain versus what eventually makes a hero, and all the twisty turny pathways both of the characters can take, are dependent on the junction points of decisions they have made.
Yeah, decision tree. Absolutely. Yes.
So life is a series of decisions. Ultimately.
Yes. Yeah, life is a series of decisions. I mean, personality is an affect management system too, basically. Like if you think about it, so like life is irritable. I love that. Life responds to stimuli. Okay, cool. Personality is irritable. Personality responds to stimuli. So someone who is type B, someone who is very low neuroticism, is going to be extremely easygoing and go with the flow, very easy to be around. They're going to be more unshakable. There's certain, you take all the knobs and you turn them to certain settings, and you're going to get someone who's very calm and stable, introverted, hard worker. And then you're going to get someone who is more, emotionally eruptive, I guess you could say, who is far more easily perturbed, and they're going to have a harder time locking in. They're going to have to probably, if they don't have high conscientiousness in their high neuroticism, it's going to be difficult. If they have high conscientiousness and high neuroticism, they're probably going to do what they have to. They're probably going to be good at work, but they're maybe going to lash out or be a little more paranoid. And so you look at the irritability of life and the irritability of personalities, and you see what's going to load the likelihood and probability of the decisions people make. It's not fatalistic. I'm not totally determinist. I heavily think that a lot influences us unless we take control of it. But anyway, amazing.
Yeah. Well, that was a great foray into origin stories and storytelling, and a little bit of our own origin stories and how psychology is storytelling and story interpretation.
Yes. I'm not turning this on. Do not. I already had that on. Okay. Yes, it is. And I'm glad to be visiting here. We knew each other in person before we started doing all this. We just didn't.
Yeah.
Our origin is we met and we started talking and had some really good dynamic repartee. And so we took it into and then I moved southeast, and so we took it into the digital realm. And now it's like the riffing and the back and forth is just seamless in person. So I think there'll be more to come of it, don't you?
I think so eventually.
I definitely do.
When they build the studio for us.
Yeah. Totally coming.
Is it CBS?
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll do our own town halls. That's right. Oh man, and we'll have some more clips and things coming too, probably asynchronously. Like we'll take some more. Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us yet again.
Yes.
Especially you, Geraldine.
Yes. And Jan, thank you. Get some great viewers here. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw your brother's message too. I was like, it's time to